Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. This is the Female Solution, and I am Shemsu-t. I don't know if you have noticed that there has been a huge change taking place in ourselves, in our world, and especially in our communities. And I'd like to take this time for the next few weeks to actually focus on what does it mean for us as individuals? What does it mean to level up? So you're going to find that I have a series that we're going to do it for a few weeks and before I take my vacation. But I want us to really take stock of who we are in the matter of what's happening right now, so that we can actually understand that it's not necessary for what's outside of us to change, but what is necessary is for us each to remember who we are. So today's topic is about unlocking your money blocks. And we're going to look at a system that I've created. And I called it a system because we actually we're going to have this conversation today. And then we also have the book that you can purchase. You can purchase it as a paperback, or you can purchase it as an ebook. It will become available later this week. But also, there's an app that before you even purchase the book, you can use the app to go through a few of the lessons that are in there to actually see if you're serious about changing the way that you think about your wealth flow. All right. Now, let's go ahead and get into today's topic. So, by the end of this hour, you will be able to define uh, the wealth flow as your capacity. Okay, what do I mean by capacity? It's your ability to learn, your ability to expand, your ability to hold, your ability to receive. And it's not just about what you possess. Many of us have been taught to chase the carrot. We're going to chase the thing. But that's not what this is about. This is about developing and allowing yourself to be the vehicle that can actually receive the energy of wealth and allow it to continue to expand within you. We're also going to name the emotions, the mental, the physical, and the relational blocks that get in our way. We're going to introduce the MARV technique: meditation, affirmation, relaxation, and visualization, which is our main focus in the things that we teach at the Master Force International Leadership Academy. And then we're going to invite you to take on a 30-day practice so that you can see for yourself, how does this work? And can I do it? And then once you go through the 30 days and you do that for yourself, you will then be able to support other people in getting into the practice. Okay. So now in segment one, we want to look at true wealth begins with capacity. Are you able to receive? Are you able to manage? Are you able to actually multiply, enjoy, right? You want to be able to enjoy. And then you also want to be able to circulate. So many of us get stopped right at receiving. Have you noticed that when someone offers something to you that is maybe difficult for you to accept, it can be a compliment, it can be a gift, it can be a suggestion, it can be a criticism or critique, and we push it away. When we get into the habit of pushing things away from ourselves, that forms a lock. That forms the block. So nothing can flow. If you cannot receive, then your capacity continues to stay weak. Okay? So if you can't receive, your capacity continues to stay weak. You do not have the ability to increase. If you want to increase, you want to learn to receive or allow yourself to receive. You got to actually say yes when things are being given to you. And then once you receive, you want to get in the habit of managing. What does it mean to manage? Managing, if you notice that a lot of times when people increase their cash flow, they tend to want to send it away from themselves. You already heard the statistics about how much money we spend outside of our community. We're not managing what we have. We're literally distributing it, giving it away before we actually allow it to do what it can to build our coffers. So we want to get into the habit of managing. This may require us to do more, not just one. And you certainly don't want to have that your only source of income is your job, just over broke. You have to have several streams of income. And you want those to continue to multiply as well. Now, we're going to start at the basics. We're not at multiplying in this session. We're literally talking about what wealth means and how that comes into us, okay? And then I also want us to consider that part of that is being enjoy. We want to enjoy all of those things and not just pay bills. So we want to do these practices so that we're not always working about the hustle. That is also part of being in the living. And then the last part of capacity we want to talk about is circulation. That's the last part, to circulate, to make sure that we're, spending in our community. So where have you been treating wealth as something outside of you instead of as of a capacity of something that you can develop within yourself? So that's the question. Wealth is not pretending hardship does not exist. It is refusing to let hardship become the final author of your life. We're not here to prove that somebody did us wrong or that life is wrong or that things are hard. We're here to demonstrate our ability to grow and to expand. Okay? So what does wealth flow means? It's the ability to expand our capacity so that we can create the life that we love and be able to enjoy it. Now, let's look at the emotional freedom and forgiveness process, because this becomes important because most of us don't realize that this is where we're stuck. We're stuck inside of the conversation of our childhood anger, our regrets, our bitterness, our shame, our disappointment, our unresolved grief. I remember going through some of these things on my own, and I'm a Capricorn. Capricorn is all about money and win. My grandmother won constantly. She was a consistent winner of the policy and the horses. I thought she was lucky because they're not doing what we want them to do. Okay, so one of the things that we want to do, want to get used to, is we want to get used to giving our gifts. And to do that, you may have to look at anger, you may have to look at regret, bitterness, shame, disappointment. One of my shame stories that I had was I I asked my uncle, he bought my sister a bike. She was older than me by 18 months, right? Bought my sister a bike. And I said, Uncle Eddie, where's my bike? And we are all at the dinner table on a Sunday. And he said, I'm not your daddy. Stop asking me for stuff. There was another block. I learned right then never ask a man for anything. Never rely on a man for anything. And to do most of your life like that, not realizing that you created the block, is crazy. So it's important that we look at the places that we have to do this work and then forgive those. Forgiveness is not saying that we approve of the harm. It's releasing the emotional contract that keeps energy tied to that pain. If we keep energy tied to that pain, I don't care how hard we hustle. I don't care how much money we make. I don't care how much we bring in. We will not be able to expand our capacity until we release those blocks. And that's what this level up is about today. We're going to unlock our money blocks. We're going to make sure that we have a way of getting to what it is that we say that we want and what we're willing to create for ourselves. So we want to look at our belief systems and our money stories. You know, what did people say to you? There's not enough. Money is hard to get. Stop asking me for stuff. Rich people are selfish. Don't ask for anything from anything. Now, we can honor that our families struggled, but we're not here to do that same pattern. We really do want to discover in ourselves the uniqueness of who we are. What did I come here to do and to learn and to give to others? This is going to show up in your belief systems as you begin to release some of those other blocks. But you have to look at what's holding you there. What are your money stories? And inside of this system that we've created with Let Your Wealth Flow, you know, it comes with a book, right? You actually get to purchase a book, and you can purchase either a soft ebook copy or a soft book copy, right? And you want to have it so that you can actually keep your ways that you're growing and expanding. You can take your own notes, show your own rhythm. If we don't do this work, people, we will continue to follow the pattern that's given to us, the pattern that they provide every summer. Kill the black man. Y'all don't see this? George Floyd, so many names, right? And then last year it was Shadur Sanders, bringing him all the way down to the fifth pick. This year is Nolan, right? This is by design. And we stay focused there. We stay focused on the destruction, and it takes us off the build. If you're not building and you're staying focused on the news and protest and what this person is doing, that's by design. And this is why our foundations are so weak. This is why our capacity is so weak. Because we keep looking over there when we need to be looking in here. Our own sovereignty. This is the most important place for us to do the work and to hold the space. We can't change what other people are doing, nor do we want to. We don't want to change them because you're giving control to other people every time you're asking them to do something for you. You want to be able to change those things within yourself And that way you know where the true power lies. So then you want to look at the body as a wealth instrument, right? You want to make sure that your capacity to take care of yourself, your wealth, your health is your first priority. Your health. We say it all the time. Health is wealth. But how many of us actually eat living foods? We drink clean water. We take a deep rest. We actually do daily movement, exercise. We take in fresh air and sunlight. We actually spend time in silence and prayer and study. And then we also limit draining media. All of this affects the energy, our nervous systems. People say, oh, my mind is strong. Your mind may be strong, but everything that's hitting you is affecting your nervous system. And that is your wealth instrument. You can't have a great thought or see a great opportunity if you are worried about things. We learned in science, right? Two things cannot occupy the same space. They cannot occupy the same space. So you want to understand that if your body is a wealth instrument, then how do you actually develop that to the point that it can be a vessel of wealth? And that's what we want to look at. And that's why we created this system, or why I created this system, so that we can have a vessel of wealth and allow ourselves to use that vessel. And there, we're going to get into it because we have been given a power and a unique ability, and especially as melanated people, the sheer fact that we have melanin has a direct contact to the energy of the universe. But you know why we weren't taught that? You know why we weren't taught. No religion teaches us that. And it's by design. Every religion, I don't care what religion it is, and I'm not trying to be offensive here, but I want us to be real about the programming that has been done specifically for us. It has been designed to keep us ignorant to our wealth instrument. Everything that we require is within us. And it can be cultivated in a limited amount of time. It does not take a long time to cultivate our strength or the things that we want to bring into life. You all heard me tell the story about when I broke my hip, thigh, and knee when I was 17. I fell through the bleachers at a football game. Ended up being in Roseland Community Hospital for 3 months, willing myself to die. And I was just done with God. I was done with life. I felt like I had been dealt a bad hand. And so I laid in that bed in traction, with the weights, with my leg hanging off, and I laid there for 3 months until one of my teachers from DuSable, class of 76, one of my teachers, Coach Baker, he came and he brought me a book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. Okay. And in that book, and he brought me other reading materials too. And he said, here, I brought you something to read, but if you read this book, I think it may make a difference for you. So when everybody left that Friday, I opened the book and I looked at all the chapters, and I pulled out the first chapters that talked about healing. It was 21 chapters, but I only wanted to know how I could get out of that hospital bed because I did not want to spend Christmas there. And I read those 3 chapters, and that night I started doing everything that it said to do. And the first thing that it said is that before you can go to God to ask for anything, you have to make sure that your heart is pure, right? You have to have the ma'at. You have to be able to put your heart on the weight, and you have to weigh it against that feather, and your heart has to be just as light. It didn't say that in the book, but now I understand where that Kemetic teaching comes from, right? So I had to go through and forgive everybody, my grandmother, life, And then when it got to the part it said, you have to forgive God, that's where I broke down, because I love the teachings of Jesus. I love God. I wanted to actually be a good steward, a servant, right? And I realized I had been blaming God my entire life. My entire life, I had been blaming God. And that opened me right up. And then the next thing it says, you want to visualize. And the best time to visualize is when you wake up in the morning and before you go to sleep at night. And so how many of us wake up in the morning looking at our phone and looking at the news and listening to the radio and listening to things that impact us in a negative way, thinking that we're going to make a difference that day? We're not being wealth instruments when we do that. So then it says, after you do your visualization, you want to make sure, right, that you believe and feel what you're visualizing. And that's what I did. I visualized the doctor saying, you must have found God. I visualized myself walking across the stage so I could graduate, because that was my senior year of high school. And lo and behold, that Monday, and listen, I was doing that, and it said, if you're going to visualize when you wake up, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to start visualizing. In the hospital, they are always waking you up. So every time they come wake me up, I go back into my visualization. Every time. So they thought I was going in and out of a coma. That wasn't. I was programming, right? Programming. And this is what the television does. This is what our YouTube channels do. Our movies. Every movie is programming us. We have got to take stock. For those of us who know better, we get to do better. What I teach, when I'm talking about, everyone is not going to hear it, and that's okay. I'm not for everybody, but those that do, it's because we have been given a particular mission to support our community and moving beyond where we are. So we have to make that energy available by doing things. And then, yes, I was able to get out of that hospital 3 days later after starting that process. And, I was able, they said, oh, you're going to be in a body cast for a year. But I only ended up being in there for 8 weeks in that body cast, because I applied what I learned. And that's the truth about learning something, is you can't just get it in your head. You have to use it. And then after you use it, you have to teach it. And that's what all of us want to do. And we'll get more into that when we talk about the Mara technique, because this is our God-given ability that every single one of us can do. But instead of visualizing what we want to visualize what the world is telling us is reality. And it's not. It's a program. You get to create your own program. So let's go to commercial, and then we'll come right back with this. Thank you.
Have you seen all the solar farms popping up everywhere? The big fields with the solar panels. There's one in our community. They produce electricity using the clean energy of the sun to send to the power grid to reduce our energy costs. Because not everybody can get solar panels put on their roof the way I have, but everybody can enroll for free to share the energy produced by the solar farms. That's why they were built. You're supposed to be getting a 10 to 20% savings on your bill for that, right? Illinois has a goal to transition by 2050 to 100% clean energy. So everybody needs to be connected. People in other communities are already getting their savings. So I'll be by to see you because they want to make sure you get your savings as well. It just takes a few minutes. I'm Naima Latif. Call me if you have any questions. 312-849-3456.
Okay, make sure that you guys call my sister Queen Naima and get going with the energy. We're talking about energy, so it's important to pay attention to all energy factors, right? Because that is a wealth factor as well in our community, okay? So now let's go on to the next segment here. We want to talk about the things that are energy drains and then our relationship patterns. So if you notice, we're always giving to people that constantly need our assistance. And what's important about that is that it also becomes something that take you away from what it is you need to be focused on. You listen, there's nothing new under the sun. So the things that I say, it's not new, but sometimes we forget and we have to keep reminding ourselves. And especially for those of us who are out here teaching and sharing, just like a doctor, you can't give yourself your own medicine, right? You have to have somebody else support you with that. So I'm supporting this community that's part of, the Female Solution, the Master Force community. We're the ones who must make sure that we're not allowing ourselves to be drained. It's okay to set up boundaries. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, and you don't have to say, I don't have it. You can just say, no. You can say, that's not good use of my time. You can say, let me think about it. Let me consider that. And every time you think about giving of yourself to something, you have to keep yourself in the equation. We are not obligated because we are parents, because we are friends, because we're leaders in we're not obligated to make sure that everybody else has access to us. If you're still doing things out of obligation, you want to understand that that's a part of lacking love within yourself. When you love yourself, when your capacity of love is heightened within you, for you, you understand that everyone cannot have access to you. And especially if they're people that are unsafe, competitive, needy, or consistently depleting. Okay. And sometimes that's your mirror. You want to see if those things are showing up in your space. You want to look and see where am I like that with other people? Where am I doing that myself? I was talking to a friend the other day and she said, oh my God, I didn't realize how much I talk like a victim. She said, I'm always talking about what I don't have. I'm always talking about how life is hard. I'm always talking about how something's wrong. And every time something shows up, it's to show us our capacity. It shows us that we have the ability, we have the knowledge, we can do it. But we want to do it from a place of love and first for ourselves. And then you want to make sure that you have functional relationships that are cordial, they're useful, tolerable, but they don't actually take your energy. It's kind of mutual. And then the best one is high energy people, right? You have this creative. How many of you just love to create? I mean, that's my favorite thing in the day. I can't wait to get to a point where I can create, whether it's creating something in business, whether it's writing a book, whether it's creating a curriculum, whether it's crocheting, painting, whatever. Those are high energy aspects. Okay. And when you have and create that time for yourself, your body becomes better. Your time becomes more available because you're not trying to put out everybody's fire. Your home becomes more peaceful. And yes, your money becomes more full, more available. It feels good to allow your coffer to actually grow, right? But that's on you. And please check and make sure that you don't feel guilt or shame because you have something when somebody else doesn't. Because remember, if you have the ability to make these changes within yourself, they do as well. So we have to teach people how to tap in to their wealth instrument. It's not outside of us. I hope that's making sense for you, right? And then you want to think about too, when we talk about what's inside of us, we actually designed the MARV technique. And most of the curriculum that I created for our Master Force Life Coach certification came from the things that I learned reading that book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. I started thinking about how can I create this in a way that everyone can have access to this information. And what's the first thing it talks about? Meditation. The reason that meditation is important and it is a wonderful counterpart to prayer is it because it allows you to receive. Prayer is an output, whereas meditation is an input. And until you learn how to meditate, you can hardly distinguish those voices that are in your head that's from the script that your parents have given you. I had to erase everything about being ugly, about being stupid, about being nappy head black. I didn't grow up in a family that said, "Oh, you're so pretty. You're gonna be so." No, no, no. I was the stupid one. I had the ugly duckling story, ugly duckling story. That's who I was, And I had to reframe that and change that for myself. And the only way I could do that is to quiet my mind, to teach myself to hear from my soul and not from those voices that were given to me in my childhood. And then how did I do that? I created affirmations. And one affirmation, I remember being introduced to Louise Hay. I had to be about 28, 29 years old. And one of my favorite affirmations from her is, I love and approve of myself. When I tell you that I wrote that affirmation 1,000 times a day, I wrote it 1,000. This is how serious I was about restructuring my mind. I wrote it every night. I love and approve of myself. When I would wake up in the morning, I love and approve of myself because I had so much shame. I mean, not only from what my family did, but my mother had been placed in a mental institution when I was 5. And growing up, she was in and out of her mental illness. Many times she would walk down the street with no clothes on or be in her pajamas, or she would be on her cycle. And I would have to deal with the people talking about her. I got beat up so many times because people would say, your mama. It was one of the members of the gang in my community that came up to school. They came up to school to pick me up one Friday. They said, listen, you don't have to fight every time somebody say your mama. The reason they do that is because they know they can have a fight. Stop doing that. And I had to then learn how to suck it up, as they say. But I learned a lesson. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That became a powerful resource for me within myself. Okay. And then the next thing, relaxation. Relaxation is not about just putting your feet up. Relaxation is about trusting God, trusting the universe, trusting that everything is fine, that everything is in divine order. I don't care how it looks on the outside. It's all good. Why? Because we were created right? To be here. And we've been told that death is an ending, and it's not. That's another lie and myth. If you're not sure about what I'm talking about, go and check out Darwin Wright. He does a great series on out of body experiences where he communicates beyond the body, right? And I know that might be a bit woo woo for some people, but we have got to stop being in our immature, childish way of thinking about things, because this is what controls us. We're scared to look beyond, we're scared to see different things. Oh, look, I missed that. Here I go. I missed it. Let's see. Annalise says most people were raised in a belief system that teaches that the creator is already mad at us because we created sin. Come on. How does one undo that deep conditioning? That's right. That's a great one. We that and I'm glad that we're questioning that. The word sin itself means missing the mark. It doesn't mean a bad thing. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It means, oh, instead of getting the bullseye, you went outside of the circle. Let's try that again. See, we let words, people, we hear it all the time. Words cast spells. So if you think that you're a sinner and you're bad and you're dirty, where's your worth going to come from? You think that your worth is going to come from outside of you, and somebody's going to tell, oh, no, you're good. No, you want to go inside, because when you go inside and start to hear God, you will hear nothing but love and appreciation. I mean, there's so much, when I'm going through, and I've been going through it this year, I've been going through it. And I promise you, my ancestors, my spirit, my soul, whatever that is, this community is always uplifting. It's always reminding me that I'm okay and I'm going to be okay and to keep going. And even when I'm crying and hurting bad, I can feel the energy, the comfort of my soul is right there. And this is what we want to move into, learning how to touch that aspect of ourselves that's really there. And a lot of this information, again, I got out of the book The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, and it's the 1963 edition that I was looking at, because when I go back and look at the newer edition, they've taken all the good stuff out again, because they don't want us to. And there is a they. Don't ask me who they are. You already see it. You already know that there is something controlling. And when I found out that our entire public school book system is owned by Giselle Maxwell's father since the 1980, so nothing in our school books are the truth. It's only what they want us to know. And that's true about any book that has been published. It's all designed to keep us in a narrow state of mind. And then, so relaxation is about trusting, letting go, allowing yourself to be in the knowing that life is good and life is for you. And this is all going to take some practice, and we're going to get into that in a few minutes. And then also we're talking about visualization. Now, I did already mention a little bit about that, and that is one of the best trainings that we could do for ourselves. The best training that we can do. Okay. And so here we can go into looking at the Marv practice. We want to make sure that we're breathing. We want to, in deep belly breaths is the, man, if that's the first gift that we get when we come into this planet, and the last gift that we let go of, it must be very valuable. Why is it that we keep it in the background? Deep belly breathing is so important. And the more we can get into it, the more freer we become, the more healthier we become. The closer I get to 70, the more I realize that everything that I've gone through and learned has been to sustain me. And then because it sustained me, I can share with other people how to also sustain themselves. And that's the difference between theory and actual application. Many people teaching stuff, they're not using it and they're not showing you that it's true. I can show with my life that the things that I teach are the truth because I live it. So we want to breathe. We want to create our affirmations. We want to relax and trust that God has it. And then we want to visualize what it is that we want instead of allowing ourselves to be taken out and distracted by what television and everything else is telling us to do. And then we also want to act. We want to act on behalf of those things that we're creating. Our greatest power is creativity. What are you creating? Right? So now let's talk about this 30-day wealth flow. And you know what's beautiful about this is that I've actually added this to an app that's free from you to download. And then if you want to purchase the book from there, you can. But I suggest before you purchase the book, actually go through the processes on the app and see how you are with it. You know, see if you're going to do the work. You may not be ready to do the work. So I don't want you wasting money if you're not ready to do the work. Okay. But here, you want to look at, you want to take 10 minutes of stillness and breathing every day for 30 days. You want to visualize one clear intent. What is it that you want to create for yourself in this 30-day process? And then you want to take one aligned action that's going to move that forward. One of the ways that I got to college, because my family, nobody showed up for my high school graduation. So, they weren't interested in me going to college. So the idea was I would go and sit on the lawn of the University of Chicago because I lived right on 63rd and 61st and Greenwoods. I would walk over there and I would pretend, I would visualize that I went to school there. I would even join some of the conversations with people. So when I actually graduated, and one of my teachers said, if we don't get you out of Chicago, you're going to die. But she didn't just say that, she took action. She actually helped me sign up and she paid for me to take the PSAT, I think that's what it was. She found a college in Iowa that would accept me late. And then she helped me to fill out financial aid papers as an independent student. And then her mother paid for my airline ticket where the security guards bought my luggage. And my grandmother was still saying, Black people don't go to college. But I got on that plane the first time ever at 18 and went to Iowa, and I stayed gone for 10 years. But the thing is that I visualized myself there without having a dollar. Now, I did have to work my way through. I worked my way through the whole time. I had 2 or 3 jobs, but I finished. I got my degree. And my grandmother said, your degree don't mean nothing to me. And I know she meant that. And I don't think she meant it in as harsh as I felt it. But what she wanted me to be sure of is that I knew who I was and that I wasn't flaunting a piece of paper as though it was more than anyone else. And we have a lot of people that do that now, and they can't learn anything new because they have their degrees. And I think that's what she wanted me to do. And then you also want to read your affirmations daily, whatever those affirmations are. You want to write 3 new gratitudes. I do it every night. My journal is on my bed with my pen right next to it. And I write what I'm grateful for. And sometimes I just keep writing because I have more to say than just 3 things, right? And then it's also protect your energy from anyone that's trying to deplete you. Anything that's trying, even if you're trying to deplete yourself, make sure that you stop and allow yourself to take rest. It's important to do that. Okay. I go to bed at 8 o'clock every night. People get mad. I turn my phone goes to D&D at 9. I had to train myself that I am not the person to fix. I'm not a fixer, and I'm not your emergency contact. What does that do? That helps people to understand that they too have to develop the capacity of sovereignty for themselves. They have to stand on their own. That's not a bad thing. Why would you create people to depend on you? That's a really great question to ask. Why are you creating people to depend on you when you actually can teach them to be just as strong as you are, if not stronger? All right. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is you want to let your life become the love story. You want to receive so that you can create. You want to create so that you can serve. And you want to serve so that others can rise. We've been taught that you want to serve so you can get more money. That's a trick too. Because what happens when we get more money? You see what's happening with the economy. One of my day jobs is that I operate as a career strategist for a company, and I work with people every day that have been with companies 20, 30 years and just get cut, and that's it. And who gets the bulk of the money when they make those cuts? The CEO, the stakeholders, not the employers that built the business. So we need to be creating for ourselves something that's sustainable, something that lasts, something that we can use now, that we can leave for future generations. What are you creating? And this is the most important thing that you can do. And so that your love story, your life becomes the love story that you created from all of those things that you had to keep learning over and over again to make yourself who you are and who you're becoming, who are each of us. I'm learning more about myself every day. Every day. And I think all of us here, I know I'm preaching to the choir most of the time, but again, just as a remembrance. And then the last thing I want to talk about is this app. It's called wealthmaster.group. That is an app. And it's created like that on purpose. Because again, like I said, we're not for everyone. But if you type into your browser, wealthmaster.group, you'll see that the app comes up. And there in the app, you will be able to find different, it's interactive. So you can actually participate in a reset where it will send you messages for a week reminding you to breathe, and then it will actually take you to the app where you can breathe with the app, and then it has affirmations that you can do, and then it's reminding you to take action. So it has the Marv section, and this is why I'm suggesting that what you do is you actually take on looking and participating with the app. You can actually purchase the book through the app too. You can either purchase, like I said, the soft cover book or paperback, or you can actually download the ebook. But before you do that, I want you to work with the app so you can see, am I really ready to take this on? Because this is deep work. This summer, we're leveling up. We're really going to reframe how we allow ourselves to be moved through life and then just die completely miserable. That's not what we're here for. It truly is not what we're here for. And so each week for the next few weeks, we're going to touch on, excuse me, just a minute. Each week, we're going to touch on different ways to level up, not just for ourselves, but for our children as well. Because if we have not unlearned these things that we have been taught, we will teach them to our children, and our children will teach that to our grandchildren. And we just keep in that cycle. The cycle just keeps going, you know. And it's time now for us to really see. You can see the pattern. Why is it every summer we are killing off Black men? And why are we looking over there? Why are we keeping that as attention? Because death isn't real. Death, as they're preaching it to us, isn't real. Yeah, we miss the person, but guess what? They can be right there with you in spirit if you can receive. Where are we learning that? Much of this we have to teach ourselves, because by design, everything being taught is not for our highest good, it's for a certain group of elite people that want to rule over the world. You remember Pinky and the Brain? What do you want to do, Pinky? I want to take over the world. Well, there are people like that for real. For real. And what we want to do is we want to level up. And this system that I'm sharing with you today, I try to keep everything inside of an economy, right, where people can reach for what they have right now. And if zero is what you have right now, that's okay. That's why you have the app. And then you'll be able to see your increase. And I want to say this. When I started doing that work back when I was 17, it took 3 days for me to see the result. 3 days for me to get in that body cast and get out of that hospital. And that's what it's like. If you start doing this work today, because you can download the app at wealthmaster.group. If you download and start working, in 3 days, you'll be able to see an increase. And that's the promise from the universe. I don't even have to make that promise, but you have to do the work. You have to open your heart. You have to be light. You have to forgive. You have to go through those first steps that we spoke about earlier, so that you have the capacity to receive. And when you have the capacity to receive, it enables you to expand. So now our wealth is not about just how much money I can make. It's about my capacity to keep generating, right? And so you're not counting dollars. You're actually living in time. You're increasing your health. You're increasing your energy. You're increasing your creativity. And those are things that no one can take from you. No one can take that from us because it's ours. And then when you do it for yourself, you know, Jesus gave us and many other teachers as well, they gave us the actual pattern. Get you a group of 12. Each one teach one. I just sent a message to Coach Baker on his birthday on the 1st of July, thanking him for going into Powell Bookstore on 57th Street. And I said, did you read the book? He said, no, I didn't read the book. My spirit something just told me. He didn't use the word spirit. He said, something told me to get that book and give it to you. Do you see how God works? He had not read the book, but he got the book at Powell Bookstore, came over to the hospital, and gave me that book along with 7 other Black magazines. Thank God for my Black Power teachers. I'm telling you, I had Miss Leggett, Coach Baker, Miss Adams. I mean, they were the front of, and they led us through. And this is who we have to be for other people. And the first thing that we have to do is teach them that it's okay to be themselves, and it's okay to love themselves, and that it's time to really get free. All right, let's level up. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for listening.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, Dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, Ngiyabonga. Senegal, Jaref. Kenya, Asante. Israel, Toda. Pakistan, Shukriya. Afghanistan, Tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.